Hello and welcome to Rays of Hope, brought to you by the Purchase Area Sexual Assault Center. I'm Mary Foley, your host for today, and thank you so much for joining us. The Purchase Area Sexual Assault Center provides free and confidential services to those individuals that have been affected in any way at any time by sexual violence. And while we believe that intervention is our mission, we also have the mission of prevention education. And here to talk to us about that education program and how you can utilize those services is our Director of Education, Amberly Larkins. So welcome, Amberly. Glad to have you with us today. We have so much exciting things going on at PASAC in terms of prevention education. But before we get to that, I'd like to take just a little bit for the viewer to get to know you a little bit better, and then let you sort of teach us what you would teach individuals when you go into the school system. So first, how long have you been with PASAC?
Actually, I'm a new person with PASAC. I just started at the end of February, so
Okay.
a couple of months.
So not
So
too
far,
long.
not too long.
But you have been out in the field quite a bit so far. Tell us, what are you finding as you go into the school systems? How open are the students to the topic of sexual assault and to the things that you have to offer?
I would say that, of course, all classes vary, but in general, the kids are very open. I've even had comments, the children have said, I think this is something we should be talking about. I've gone so far as to ask, does anybody know somebody that's been a victim of sexual violence? In just about every class, somebody does know somebody. So I believe that the majority of the students are open to these subjects and they realize the importance of them.
I find that refreshing. I mean, I think that sometimes we do try to protect teenagers, but really, and I think that's important, but I do think that they are wanting to talk about some of these issues. Now, I was reviewing the statistics for the center, and last year, the Purchase Area Sexual Assault Center provided somewhere around 200 or 300 education programs to over 7,000 participants. And so we are really good at doing sort of date safety and sexual assault awareness, but really you have something new that you're trying this year. Could you tell us a little bit about this year's education campaign?
Right, this year's program is called Get Active, which means awareness created through involvement, victim support, and education.
Okay.
It's a more comprehensive plan to educating the youth and the community, really, on the subjects of sexual and domestic violence. We're partnering with the Merriman Domestic House, a domestic violence center, and we're offering all types of programs covering self-esteem, assertiveness and aggression, healthy relationships, and the sexual violence prevention. All those things encompass that will hopefully help buffer children to becoming victims of sexual violence.
Right, and many of our viewers may not know, or they may know that a lot of the research does indicate that we sort of have to insulate them from all sides to reduce their risk of being
Research
victim.
actually does indicate that, for instance, self-esteem. People with lower self-esteem have a higher risk of becoming victims of sexual violence. So you don't just need to target one area. I believe you need to target all areas to help prevent it.
Okay, so that's sort of the, I guess, the heart or the method behind what you guys are implementing in terms of the education department. So ACTIVE, you said it stands for Awareness Created Through Involvement, Victim Support, and Education. So awareness in terms of self-esteem, healthy relationships, and all of those aspects. What do you hope that students go away with? Let's say if they're sitting in a self-esteem class, how do you hope to increase their awareness?
Well, I hope that they are aware of their own level of self-esteem, and I want them to be aware of things that can perhaps build up your self-esteem and in the same sense knock down your self-esteem, and how to learn how to use little steps along the way to build a healthy balance in high and low self-esteem so they can help protect themselves in the future.
So do you tell kids or teenagers, I guess we should say, that balance is what's important, that they're not always going to have everything go their way, and then some things are going to go their way?
That's one of the main points that we want to drive away from that program, is we want to give them ways to help build their self-esteem, and then also point out those things that can knock down their self-esteem. But what we really want to focus on is finding that healthy balance, that if you're too big-headed, bad things are going to happen to you, and if you have this inflated perception of yourself and then something bad happens, it's going to be harder for you to cope with that than if you have a balance and you are confident in yourself and your beliefs and values, you are confident in those and you believe in them, and then if you're too high or you're too low. So that's the main point, the balance and healthy self-esteem.
Okay, so now does that particular program have a specific name if people are interested in requesting that program? What's the name of that lesson
That's
that you
the
do?
Actively Healthy program.
Okay, so all of this is based on the Get Active sort of acronym or approach.
Right.
Okay.
Each program is actively and then
something.
Actively
Okay.
something. Yeah.
So we have Actively Healthy.
Healthy.
Okay, so we're teaching them self-esteem and working with that. What are the other programs that you offer?
One of the other programs is the Actively Supportive.
Okay.
And that is mainly a program that helps children or students realize, these aren't children, I sometimes think of them as children, but help them realize that it's hard when, say, you've been in an abusive situation, whether it be sexual abuse, emotionally, physically, however, just an abusive situation, that it's hard to seek support. And I kind of focused on helping children realize who their support network is, whose support network they might be a part of, and ways to approach a situation when you might suspect that something's going on. We talk about certain warning signs that you might look for.
So talk to me about some of those warning signs. Let's say, we have viewers that maybe, hopefully we'll schedule a program with you and we'll talk more about that coming up. But if they're just listening today and they're thinking, this is something that maybe I know somebody right now that I think is in a bad situation, what would you want them to take away if they were sitting in that program?
Well, obvious warning signs would be, if we're talking about domestic violence issues, bruises, broken bones, those types of things. Those are the more obvious. Sudden change in somebody's mood, a withdrawn, somebody who might have been a charismatic, vivacious person and involved in lots of things at school and really valued their schoolwork and then maybe their sports team, whatever they're in, if they all of a sudden start to withdraw from those types of things. Or if you have a best friend who's not returning your phone calls and not wanting to go out, go to the movies, do things that you used to want to do. Those types of things. In the hallways, I've had teachers say to me, I've seen situations in the hallways that concern me in, say, boy-girl relationships, dating relationships. In the hallways, if you see somebody being verbally abused in the hallway or one of your friends acts scared when they're around their boyfriend or girlfriend, that would be a sign to look for. Eating problems, those types of things.
So let's say some of these warning signs are present and, we'll use the example of a high school situation. And I'm in high school and I see some of these warning signs in my friends. What would you tell me to do?
Well, the plan of action that we call it SOS. We want you to sound the alarm. We want you to approach your friend, say what's bothering you. Using your I statements, I plus a feeling word. I am scared that something's going on here, because you don't want to attack the person and say, you've been acting weird, you've been doing this. You don't want them to be attacked or on the defense, because then they're going to be less likely to open up to you.
Okay.
So I would tell you to state what's bothering you. Then to offer a listening ear, because now you've expressed a concern that you have using your I statement, and then offer a listening ear.
Okay.
Use your active listening skills.
So
first of all, believe them and go with that. Use your active listening skills. Don't interrupt them. Don't offer all your opinions when they're telling you. Just listen. Look at them. Take it in. Use reflective skills. Let them know that you've heard what they're talking about, maybe by reflecting what they've said, repeating it back to them.
Okay.
Those types of things.
So we're going to sound the alarm. We're going to say what's bothering you. I'm concerned about you because you don't ever want to go to the movies. Can we talk about that? So they talk back and I listen to them, and then what do I need to do after that?
Then you need to help them seek support, because that's a hard thing to do. It's hard for them to already open up to you and say, this has happened to me, or this is going on with me. Now you need to empower them and help them find support, whether it be at an agency like the Purchase Area Sexual Assault Center or the Merriman House Domestic Violence, depending on what type of abuse is going on, or just as far as going with them to your school counselor.
But you do recommend that they seek out some sort of professional support or adult support.
Right. We do recommend that because, like I said, that will help empower them and get some control, hopefully feeling of control back into their life where they're in a situation where they feel like they've lost control.
So it sounds to me like part of Get Active is educating the kids in a comprehensive way. If we're going to summarize sort of what we've gone over just so far, balancing their self-esteem and then helping them to take an active role in making sure that their friends are safe and that members of their family are safe, and you're going to provide them with steps to do that.
Right.
What age groups do you serve?
Well, actually, with the Get Active program, it is tailored towards middle school and high school ages.
Okay.
Now, through the center, we offer programs for, say, safe environment programs for children from, 4 years old on up to 12th grade.
Okay.
And even community programs and things like that. But the Get Active campaign is tailored towards the middle school and high school ages.
Okay, so I can get you to come to my church, I can get you to come to my civic
Right.
group, my business, my group that I help with at school. I can get you to come talk to teachers. So you do provide a variety of programs, but your
Right.
focus or emphasis is really the middle school, high school age.
Correct.
Okay. Now, something that I found very exciting reviewing the curriculum is that teachers will be very interested in one point of Get Active, and I know that there are other programs that I would love to talk about those maybe when we come back from the break, but sort of throw that golden carrot out there for the teachers that are listening.
Teachers. There's so much emphasis on core content, and it's important. You need to cover that. They're going to be tested on these things, and we've developed this program around that idea. These programs cover some of the Kentucky Department of Education core content points. So your classroom time is well spent with these programs.
Okay. So I think that would be very important
Yes.
to know if I was a teacher. So and you correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm remembering correctly from the review, the self-esteem and the sort of group dynamics covers core content points around topics like that.
Right.
Same with assertiveness and healthy relationships, and all through every program is covered with a core content point, with the exception of the sexual
assault awareness one.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So they can call and get more information
Right.
in terms of
I'd
that.
be glad to give that information.
Okay. Before we go to the break, just sort of give us a preview of what's coming up. What the second half of the program, what are you going to be teaching us about?
We're going to go through the actual sexual assault awareness program and prevention program, and then we will also talk about the actively assertive and the actively respected. Those cover how to handle yourself in versus aggression versus assertiveness, and also in how to build healthy relationships, healthy communication within those relationships.
Now, as you know, we got a lot of information from students before this program was developed, and aggression comes up a lot. Can you talk to us a little bit about why you think it's important for us to spend time teaching kids about assertiveness versus aggression?
Well, because I think that it's human nature to approach a situation with aggression. Adults have problems with assertiveness, and I don't think it's necessarily something that comes naturally to people. Assertiveness is not. There are certain steps that one can take to learn how to be assertive. And I think that that's something that needs to be taught to these students, so that when they get in a situation, which everyone at some point in time will be in a situation where they're going to feel defensive, and their first response is to going to go on the defense and be aggressive, where maybe they can think in their head, no, I can stop and I can do this, this, and this. That'll help me handle that situation and get an effective outcome out of a situation. Aggression is not going to bring any productive outcome.
Exactly. Do you think that so far teenagers have been open to that idea that I don't necessarily have to be aggressive to be successful or to get my way, so to speak, but that there is another way, or have they been resistant?
I think so far they've been open. I've only done this program a couple of times, and both times they seem really interested, ask a lot of questions, and because it's a situation that everybody has been in. And there's actually been people in my groups that have been in programs because they have a problem with aggression.
Right.
And so they're eager to learn different ways to handle situations.
Okay.
So.
Well, I'm very excited about you talking to us more about the actual program. coming up in the break, so we're going to do that right now. We're going to take a quick break. We want you to stay tuned because when we do come back, just like Amberly said, we're going to be going over those specific skills that she can provide your group, your student, or perhaps just you as a viewer on how you can handle aggression and turn it into an assertiveness skill that will help you to be more successful. Plus, we're going to be talking about sexual assault awareness, dating safety, and the importance of taking tips and teaching your child the tips to remain safe. If you would like to schedule a program with the Purchase Area Sexual Assault Center, you're going to see those numbers on your screen. You can contact Amberly at 270-534-4422. And again, that's Amberly Larkins, the Director of Education at PASAC. So we'll be right back, and we hope you'll join us. Welcome back to Rays of Hope. I'm Mary Foley, and our guest today is Amberly Larkins, the Director of Education at the Purchase Area Sexual Assault Center. And today we're talking about the importance of prevention education in reducing sexual violence in our community. As you know, sexual violence is an epidemic that we work very hard to overcome, and part of that process is educating you, the viewer, and educating the community on ways to reduce your risks. And Amberly has been talking to us about the new education program called Get Active. Could you just quickly summarize again what Get Active is and what you're trying to do through this education approach?
Okay, Get Active is awareness created through involvement, victim support, and education. And we have a comprehensive educational program which actually covers several of the Kentucky core content points, right? Mm-hmm. And we talk about things like self-esteem, healthy relationships, sexual assault awareness, mm-hmm. assertiveness and aggression, and peer counseling.
Okay, and you know the old adage says that knowledge is power, and sometimes we have maybe the knowledge, but then we don't quite know what to do with mm-hmm. it. So you're sort of taking this education idea and not only making knowledge useful, but teaching kids actual ways to practice these skills. And right. I've sat in with you on some mm-hmm. of those programs and watched you, and there are actual skill building times, there are recall tasks. I mean, it's not just a lecture style. Right. What was the purpose behind that approach?
Well, for one thing, it's hard to sit in a classroom and listen to somebody talk the whole time. Mm-hmm. And I think that you gain some from listening to lecture, but there are so many other ways to learn mm-hmm. that this is an active approach to learning, which does involve skill building times, and we have visual aids because people don't always learn the same way.
Okay.
So we engage the students and actually with activities and things like that throughout the program to keep them involved and to help people learn.
Okay. So let's kind of take me there. Mm-hmm. Take me to, let's say, your healthy relationship or assertiveness training. And let's go through one of the skills. I see we do have a visual aid for it here. I don't know how clear it is to the viewer, but it's called Punch Out Conflict. And this is a time, I understand, in the lesson where we're going to actually practice a skill. So tell me a little bit about what we're getting ready to do.
The Actively Assertive program talks about aggression versus assertiveness. And so this is going to be a skill building part of the program where mm-hmm. we're going to actually practically come up with ways to handle a situation where you might want to be aggressive instead of assertive. So we're actually going to teach people ways to be assertive. So and the first thing is to
do you let the student sort of come up with the scenario? Do they create it on their own? Do they give you an example to do this process with?
Well, actually, we do the visual aid, and we go through that, stating an I statement. And then we'll go through this, and then we'll actually do a scenario
okay.
where they can work as a group to come up with ways to handle a conflict situation.
Okay.
But first we're going to teach them the ways to do it, and then we'll see if they can use what we've just learned to handle a situation
So
like
if you were
that.
going to teach me, and I'm going to just read off the board here, and then you can sort of elaborate for me. The first one says, state the problem using I statements. So, and you have, I have a concern about. So why is it important to use an I statement?
Well, we teach that an I statement is a way not to attack somebody, to make somebody feel like, you're telling them, you're doing this, you're making me mad, you. Well, really, you are the person that's having these feelings, so you need to use I plus a feeling word is an easy example of how to use an I statement, so as not to attack somebody and automatically start them off on the defense.
Okay, so you're teaching them to take responsibility, I guess, in essence, for their own feelings and concerns.
Correct.
So I state the problem first. So the problem, let's say, I don't know, I'm just going to make one up. I'm mad at my sister because she wore my shirt and she didn't ask me. So that's my problem. So now I'm going to state the feeling using an I statement. So this is where you want me to attach a feeling word.
Right.
So give me an example of how I might do that.
You can say, I'm angry because
you wore my shirt without asking.
Right.
I know these are
instead
trivial examples.
Instead of calling them a name, you wore my shirt. You always do this, on and on and on. That way you're not attacking somebody, you're saying you're taking responsibility for the way that you feel because it's you that's angry. I'm angry because, or I feel disrespected when you do this.
Okay.
And get it out. Say however much you need to say and get it out, and hopefully they're going to listen to you. But then in turn, after you state how you feel using those I statements, we teach that you need to stop, shut your mouth, and let the other person respond, come back at you. And you need to listen while they're responding to you.
Okay. So I've stated the problem, I've stated how I feel about it, and now I'm going to give somebody an opportunity to respond back to me. And those are really basically just good social skills.
Correct.
That sometimes people do lack for one reason or another. When would it not be appropriate for me to perhaps give somebody an opportunity to respond? Is there how do you handle that maybe if a student is in a dangerous situation?
Right. Well, like you said, in a dangerous situation, say somebody's attacking you or something like that, using your assertiveness, no, stop, I'm doing that, you're not going to do this, that type of thing. Don't give somebody when they're yelling and screaming and coming at you. That would not be a situation that's a situation you need to get out of. Okay,
so you're saying let them respond if the situation is appropriate, but if there's any sort of danger or threat, they need to just to get out and remove themselves from the situation and allow the other person to calm down or whatever.
If you need to, and these don't have to be, I say this, you say this, then we agree on this. It's not always going to go like that. If you are in a situation where it's too heated and it's too powerful of a subject, you might need to say, we need to walk away and we'll come back to this whenever you decide and whenever we can calm down and talk about this.
Okay.
It's not always a by the book, and we explain that.
Okay, so basically the I statements, letting them respond, and then for time's sake, we're going to have to just sort of run through these last ones. Monitor tone of voice and body language.
That's a big one. You can say that you can say that you're calm, but if your fists are clenched and your teeth are gritting and you're lunging towards somebody, that's not really putting off the whole feeling that you're calm. We're going to talk about this. So you need to monitor your body language. Realize that maybe you are coming off too aggressive to someone, and they're not likely to respond to you and be productive if you are coming on with your body language as being too aggressive.
Okay, so I need to watch not only what I say, but then how I say it with everything else.
Correct.
Okay,
yeah.
And then follow through on agreements. Talk to me about that just briefly.
Right, so hopefully towards the end of the conflict, you come up with a conflict resolution, and you're going to come up with an agreement between the two of you, and you need to follow through with that. You need to hold up your end of the deal, and you need to do X, Y, and Z that you agreed on, and they can do A, B, and C that they agreed on.
Okay.
So you need to follow through with that conflict resolution plan.
Well, that sounds That sounds very good and very beneficial, I think, to that age group especially.
Right, to anyone.
To anyone, exactly, to adults alike.
Right.
So that's a conflict resolution plan and just an example of something that you do teach in the school systems with that particular program. And then quickly, and we don't have much time, but obviously the Purchase Area Sexual Assault Center is known for their token program of dating safety and sexual assault awareness. Could you briefly just take us through I guess the risk reduction tips that you do provide? And I know the first one that you told me, the acronym that you're using is AWARE, be aware. So we need to ask questions. What kind of questions?
You need to ask questions. Where you're going, who's going to be taking you, are their parents going to be there, what time are you coming home? Just any information you can get, you need to ask questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you have watch for warning signs, and you talked a little bit about those warning signs. What would you...
Obvious warning signs would be alcohol, drugs, those types of things. Just people huddled over in a corner somewhere, you know, being left alone, you can't find your friends, any kind of funny feelings you may have, dizziness, blurred vision, anything like that.
Like rape, drugs in this situation.
There may be something going on. If you start feeling really funny all of a sudden, that's going to be a warning sign.
So this education program sort of merges risk reduction with like date, rape, drugs, and educates.
We do talk about the date, rape, drugs, and that will be part of this warning sign. As you know, if something starts feeling unnatural, then that's going to be a warning sign.
Okay, and then you have acknowledge your sexual limits and communicate them to your partner. And you have remember your friends and expect your rights and wishes to be respected. Any elaboration you want to do on any of those points that you think the viewer would need to know?
Well, acknowledge your sexual limits and communicate them is pretty clear. You know yourself, know your limits, communicate them. That cuts out the gray areas in a situation. The remember your friends. This is one that has a practical application in that have a friend that you can contact if you start to get in an uneasy situation. Let somebody know where you're going and what time you're going to be home. That way, if you don't come home 2 hours later, they're going to be looking for you. Those types of things. If you go with your friends to a party, leave with your friends to a party. Don't leave with somebody else.
Okay, and then expect
your rights and wishes to be respected. Cut and dry. Be assertive, which we've learned already, and just expect your rights to be respected.
Well, I think that the work that you're doing is much needed, and so we applaud you for that. And so just in summary, the Get Active Education campaign is comprehensive. It covers Kentucky education, core content points for teachers. And what do folks need to do if they'd like to schedule a program?
Just contact me at the center. My name's Amberly Larkins, like we've said. The number is 534-4422. And just say you're interested in scheduling a program, and then we can talk about if you want to do one specific program or if you want to do a whole series of programs and in what order we want to do those to fit your classroom.
Okay.
Or your community group, and the summer's coming up, youth groups. It's a great thing to do in your youth groups, even Vacation Bible School, those types of things, any kind of summer programs.
So they just need to give you a call and you'll take them from there.
Right.
Okay, well thank you so much for being here today. And thank you, the viewer, for watching. And as always, this is Rays of Hope, brought to you by the Purchase Area Sexual Assault Center. And as we leave you today, we will leave you with the phone numbers. If you or someone you know has been victimized in any way by sexual violence, please feel free to contact us at the number on your screen. There is hope and healing available for you. And until next time, I'm Mary Foley.